Hello there everyone, my name is Steve and welcome back to my channel. Today, you can probably see what we have behind us, and it is Mumbo Jumbo's mob farm that he just built on Hermitcraft Season 7. Although not quite, because as you'll notice it does have a roof and a collection system which he has not created yet on camera. I thought that I would do a tutorial on this because I already kind of needed to build a mob farm on the Comcraft server, which is the SMP server that I play on for 1.16. And this looks like a pretty good candidate, and it does work extremely well. Granted, some of the rates are obviously going to be better here because there's like nowhere else in the world mobs can spawn, but as you can see there are hordes of hostile mobs spawning behind me and getting sent down to the collection areas. And I should probably turn off some of these particles so that like it looks better in YouTube compression. Let's go ahead and do that real fast. Particles, they already are decreased. Let's make them minimal. Okay. So that's probably a little better. That'll help my frames. My frames die when I go through here. It's a little better now, but anyways, this part here basically minus the campfires and the roof is what Mumbo Jumbo has currently built, including this timer up here. And the roof is just, it's pretty standard. It just goes out as far as it needs to make sure that all of these platforms are in a complete darkness for hostile mob spawning. However, the collection system is my own design, and I will explain. I'm just gonna go like work my way up from the top down, explaining how to build this thing. Some parts I'll show you block by block how to build, and some I'll just explain if they're super simple. So down here, basically 28 blocks down, is at the level where we have these soul campfires, and most hostile mobs will die on impact when falling down here. However, mobs like witches and sometimes spiders just don't take enough fall damage, so these campfires will finish the job. And I originally attempted to actually just make this come down like really short and just have like campfires here, but it worked great for everything except for the witches, which would just drink fire resistance and get stuck there, and they would not die, and it was really annoying. So I had to eventually resort to the standard and kind of boring falling killing method. And then we just have hopper chains running underneath all of these campfires and out to here where we have a centralized storage system, because this farm is a little bit interesting. Mumbo used just the principles that Gnembon used in his mob farm tutorial, and I believe he adapted it to basically be a quad mob farm, but it's also actually an even number in the middle. It's technically 2 blocks instead of just 1 or 3 in the middle. Now I looked through the video that Mumbo linked in his video of Gnembons, and I didn't specifically see this farm design mentioned there. I saw similar ones, so my conclusion is there's always a chance that I might be wrong or I might have missed something, but my conclusion is that Mumbo created his own design just using the principles of Gnembon's farm. And so this collection system, it just feeds into a bank of chests, basically 3 double chests on each side. You can expand this downward as much as you want and just have like scaffolding or something in the middle to go up and down through, depending on how much storage you want to have. And Mumbo is going to probably have his feed directly into his giant item sorter system. So he'll probably not have just an independent collection system. You never know, maybe he will, but he'll probably make most of it go into his mega sorter in the middle of his industrial district. You don't actually have to fill in the sides of these. I've never once seen the mobs go out, so you don't actually have to have a full tube. You can just have just sort of like the rods, or what did you even call that, just going down. You don't need to fill in the corners, so that is pretty helpful. Next, before we actually explain how to do these platforms, which is a slightly complicated portion, the rest of it is quite simple. I should mention what all these campfires are for, because these I added these later on because I realized that mobs were sometimes moving over slightly when they were falling or getting pushed by other mobs, and they would land on top of the glass that's under here. See, like that spider, it landed on here. I mean, that one did crawl that way, but sometimes mobs would not move and they just get stuck up there. So these soul campfires make it so that the mobs will just die even if they fall here, but they don't provide so much light that stuff can't spawn here because it's still just a light level of 4, and that is enough to spawn hostile mobs, so that's pretty helpful. I think normal campfires would probably make it too bright, but since we're in 1.16, I should probably mention this is in the 1.16 pre-release and that this does work in 1.16. We can use the Soulfire campfires. What are these? They're soul campfires, okay. That's what they're called. You can use them, or wither roses on top of dirt, but that's more expensive. And so this farm is basically, it is 4 different quadrants of just spawning areas for mobs to spawn, and they are all sort of connected diagonally in just like either a diamond shape, or it would be a diagonal square, depending on what term you want to use. And so it's not actually that hard to connect them all together. I am going to show you just how to build one and then how to connect others, but it's actually pretty simple how to do it. Alright, you're going to want to start with a 4x4 just sort of hollow square, I guess, and you're going to need to make it out of glass. And at the corners, you're going to want to make a block come out like this here, a block come out here, a block come out here, and a block come out here. And this is going to be the basis for all of the different quadrants, and they're all going to be made to go diagonally like this on these blocks. And you'll notice that it always leaves a 3-block gap in the middle here, which is where the center point basically of the different modules and quadrants line up. So it's an interesting design that was a little tricky to figure out, but once I figured out the basis, it was quite simple to continue to replicate. Basically, then you're going to have blocks come down here so that it's 1 block, I guess farther in that direction, just adjacent to these blocks, and 1 block down. And then you're going to need 8 of these blocks in a diagonal going in basically each of the different sides. So that's 6, 7, 8. And you can fill this in all the way to there. You can just fill this in so that it goes all the way around it like that. And then you're going to need to go another 8 in this direction. And there we go. Now this is the outline of one of these full square diagonal quadrant thingy-mabobs, whatever you want to call it. And you're going to have another layer of glass up here that just is also the same layer as that, running all the way around. And then we'll work on the bottom. And I'll also show you how to connect this to other modules. Alright, so this is the outline of one module, and this top area of blocks is going to be the divider in between the modules. So the way you start another one is you literally just have it come out another 8 blocks in this direction, just on the other side of this top ridge here. And so it makes it quite simple to just continue in any direction. And then you're going to obviously have a sort of weird corner that's more like an L shape like this on all the sides. So don't be worried about that. You'll see here that it's not a perfect corner, neither is it a perfect corner over here or over here at any of them. So that's how that's gonna join up there. And basically the middle point is always like in the middle of these 3 blocks, and it's always 8 blocks for the sides. And now I'll show you how to build the inside of this. So you're gonna want to start with 6 blocks here, and then you're just gonna need to place 3 just going in this direction like this all the way down until you get to the end, where you're going to want to have just 1 block gap in the middle. And that is how they join up, and you'll see now that there is a rectangular, square, or diamond shape, or whatever you feel like calling it, in the middle of here. And so what it should, if you did this correctly, there should be 7 blocks here, and then a midpoint. Let's just make a midpoint of bricks so that it's easier to see, and then there should be an additional 7 blocks here till you get to the other end. That is all good, and there should also be 7 here. Good. So we did build this correctly, and the way you finish this thing is you just need to fill the rest of this in with stone brick slabs or some type of slab. It doesn't actually even have to be a slab, but like it's easier, more efficient for the amount of blocks you need if you use slabs. Alright, there you go. This is all completed. Now you just need to add in water, a water source block on top of every single one of these blocks up here, like just the middle row, so that it flows down into the center. And when you are all done placing in the water, you should have a 3x3 block gap in the middle where no water has gone. And as you can see, we do have a 3x3 block gap here, and you're going to want to punch that out. And that is where mobs are going to fall down. So that's how you build these modules. You just continue it in all these directions. It's 8 blocks, it's like 3 here and then 8 before another 3 in that direction. So that's how it should end up at all times. And then you can put the soul campfires or some other block that will kill mobs on top of that to stop the mobs from getting stuck up there, and that'll solve that problem. But now let's move on to the spawning platforms. So in the middle here, you're gonna want to start in the very middle of the platform and then go up 3 blocks and then place a dispenser down. And this is the level of your first platform, and the platform needs to come out 7 blocks in each direction starting from that dispenser. So Basically, this platform will be the same size as the slab platform that was also down here, so you can just use that as a reference guide to see how big to make it. And there we go, this is a completed platform. You'll see that if you place water in the middle, it will flow to cover exactly the entire platform, no more, no less. And you're going to obviously need to have a water bucket in that dispenser. Now what you're going to need to do is go up 2 blocks like that, place a 3rd block on top, and you need to make sure you place a dispenser that is measuring the block above it, which is going to be another dispenser. And you'll see that if you, let's say, if you put up here, if you put another observer, you'll see that if you update that observer, then it will trigger all of this stuff. And if you, once we actually put water in here, you'll see that it will also trigger this dispenser to release the water. And so that just creates a chain reaction all the way down the farm, which we can observe over here. If we wait for these clocks to go, it should be likely to send another pulse through soon. Yep, looks like it's about to. And you'll see that it triggers it in a chain all the way down, and it works the same way when it sends another signal, and it just retracts the water going all the way down as well. So it just is just flushing the mobs down. And I should mention there are 8 spawning platforms, which means that you have 8 dispensers, but the bottom one doesn't actually need like observers below it or anything. It just starts with the very second one, which is the first full water releasing system module. So as you can see over here, we have just the dispenser. Over here we have platform 1, platform 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and this is where the top is. And so at the very top you're going to have a dispenser facing upward, also with an observer facing upward, but you're actually going to have 2 measuring upward. Just they're going to be measuring into each other basically. And the top of this is going to be measuring one of the repeaters, or observing one of the repeaters of the clock circuit that makes this run. So now I think it will be easiest if we give let's see, effect, give speed, night vision, just give it for an indefinite amount of time. This is basically, yeah. So now we can see all of this quite easily, and I'm going to just explain and show you how to build the clock circuit here, as opposed to building up a whole nother layer, because that would take a long time. Although luckily I didn't have to build all 4 of these by hand. I built 1 by hand, and then I used structure blocks to copy and paste them to the other 4 areas, so that worked out nicely. But in survival, obviously building all these by hand will take a while and a lot of slabs, so that is something that will be annoying about this design. But that's kind of how most mob farms go. They're not usually easy to build. They usually take a lot of time. Alright, so what you're going to need to do now is find the very exact center of this farm, which is these 4 blocks here. You can reference that by looking at the gap in the middle, and you should just build basically 3 slabs. This doesn't actually need to be a, that could actually be a slab, because you can put levers on slabs. Alright, there we go. So you can just have 4 slabs in the very middle here, and you're going to have a lever on one of them, and the rest need to be just have redstone dust on top of them. And this lever is what controls the farm. So the way this works is that it has a comparator that, like, I don't even fully understand the mechanics of this because I've never worked with comparators in this way before. I just followed basically just how Mumbo built that by looking at his video. But when this is powered on, it creates a clock circuit, so this will dissipate all the way back here. And like when this stops powering the side of the comparator, it sends another pulse back out and around. So it just creates a clock circuit that's very slow. If you turn this off, however, then the signal will get back to here and it will just stop there and it won't go back around, which just means that the farm will turn itself off at that point. Also, you can configure the farm, like you can make it so that when it's off it has the water flowing out, just by having the observers update and have the farm actually like dispense its water when you're building it and keep it that way so that it has the water dispensed when it's off. If you don't want mob spawning and taking up mob cap and stuff like that, which is probably what you'd want to do. I actually didn't do that here because it just occurred to me now. But you'll see that the farm remains inactive unless you turn this thing back on. And so to build this, it's just the 4 in the middle with some redstone dust, and then you're going to want to go 3 blocks out, and you're going to want to line it up with the very end point of each of these modules. So see, this is lined up with that, this is lined up with that, and this is lined up with that, and all, including the 4th one. So make sure it's like that, and then you're going to have 2 redstone dust and a repeater set to the default tick setting. Next, you're going to have a comparator that is just like facing in that direction into that repeater. Then you're going to need to have 15 repeaters going in this direction, all set to the highest tick setting. And then you're going to have 2 more slabs with some redstone dust, and then 15 repeaters going in this direction. And finally, you're going to have dust going from this repeater into this comparator. And the 5th repeater should be on top of this observer, which is what causes the observer to update and trigger the whole farm to run. And you're going to need to replicate this on all 4 sides here, so that it just has, like, basically, that's 30 repeaters per side, which is, like, you're going to need 120 repeaters. So you're going to need a lot. That's a little unfortunate, but at least it's not quite as hard to craft as, like, comparators. And also, it is a pain because you have to get a bunch of dispensers, and dispensers are really annoying to craft, like, yeah, because of the bow thing, non-stackable items. Final stage in this mob farm is making the gigantic roof that makes the whole thing dark. So if we clear my effects, you'll see that it is pitch black in there so that mobs can spawn everywhere. And starting from the outside of this clock circuit, you're going to need to go, counting this block, you're going to need to go an additional 13 blocks in that direction, and you're going to need to do that on all 4 sides. And you should end up with a gigantic roof like this. You're going to need to fill the whole thing in, and it's just a 1 block diagonal. You can also test to see if you've done it correctly by measuring these blocks, and all of them should say a light level of 0. This should just say not 1, just literally a light level of 0. One of the best places to AFK is like right underneath it. So you could basically build it over an ocean and build it super high up, and it would be about as efficient as it is on this world. And that's basically all you need to know about how to build this farm. And I'll put a link to Mumbo's video and Gnembon's video in the description if you want to go check those out and see what Mumbo's farm looked like. It's basically like this, although it doesn't have a collection system or a roof yet. And Gnembon's farm is where Mumbo got all the principles and stuff for this farm design. Also, I will put a world download in the description if you want to go check this out. And it's going to be called Tango Tech Super Smelter, but this is just going to be the same world where I did Tango Tech Super Smelter, the various sugarcane farms, and also the mob farm. So you can go download that world if you would like to see this actually like built in a world. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and found it informative or useful, and if you did, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe with the notifications on so as not to miss out on future videos. But once again, I have been Speeve, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!